Welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast, creating a loving and sacred space to share truth and knowledge, bringing together from around the world like-minded souls who wish to share their truth and wisdom in this great time of conscious awakening.
Hosted by Chris and Stephen of the Purple Mountain Spiritual, Health and Wellbeing Centre. Welcome, friends, to the Collective Awakening podcast. I'm Chris, along with Stephen of the Purple Mountain Spiritual and Wellbeing Centre. It's an honour to be with you once again, and it's an absolute honour to welcome our guest and our very good friend Amed, who will be with us. Ahmed's visited us at the Purple Mountain last year quite a few times with his lovely group that he has down in London, and he's got so much to share with us. I know he has his own YouTube podcast that's worth checking out, well worth checking out, called Planetary Intelligence. So please take a look. I've had a look in preparation for this chat tonight, so I'm eager to learn myself. Always learning, always sharing. So Ahmed, absolute pleasure to welcome you. And
pleasure, brother. Pleasure, brothers. Thank you for welcoming me. It's an honor to be here with you both.
Thank you.
So, Ahmed, obviously, it's an incredible time to be on the earth plane right now, day by day. Things are happening, they're turning, they're shifting at every moment. And maybe just to start, just a little bit of what have you been feeling energetically going on around you as of late, the last couple of months or so, as we start to come out of a cycle of the last 2 years a little. Things are changing. Slightly.
In terms of energy, what I've been feeling, and since I started working with the medicine with both of you, and thank you for, I'm so grateful to you both for that, and grateful to a brother who introduced me to you. But since then, the energies, because I work with energy, and what I've been feeling is that this connection of the divine has been coming in more and more online. There has been this separation and forgetfulness. What I've been what the trigger has been about this sort of corona theme that we have. The word corona and the crown and the theme of the crown that we seems to be in our collective consciousness. That corona is the memory of the divine will coming back to correct and come back into balance with the light and the dark. The light and the dark are one, but they've been separated for so long. And it feels like now is the time that it's starting to come back together and heal. And we are, I get, and I know you probably would feel this too, is that as shamans, the shamanic spirit and consciousness is also coming back to the field of humanity when it was been lost for so long, and that is part of that's the key to trigger the correction of the disharmony that's in the world and in our inner worlds too. And I think you mentioned this as well just before the talk, Stephen, the light and the dark. We always stay in the light, but we forget about the dark. If we neglect the dark, it's almost like an imbalance. If you stay in too much light, you'll get blinded. If you stay in too much dark, you'll get blinded. It's a paradox. So when you kind of find that balance, then you can see everything. And it's kind of like it's a pendulum. You have to keep going to the extremes until you find that centeredness, that 0 point. And I feel energetically that pendulum is starting to slow down. This game of duality has been playing out its role for such a long time that it's starting to find its center point again. And that divine consciousness, whatever you want to call it, source, God, is becoming one again. It forgot itself, but it needed to forget itself to remember. It's so, I don't know if these words make sense at all, but that's what I'm feeling with these energies. and in the psycho-spiritual consciousness collectively is happening.
Yeah, I'm so pleased you use that analogy of the pendulum. And I always think of any type of energy that we're in, whether it's, we find ourselves going into the darkness, the pendulum must always swing the other way eventually. It's, like you said, that duality. So I think it was very well put. But just something I wanted to get into, Ahmed, was as I looked at a lot of your work, that what stood out to me was the unraveling the distortions of history. What we've been taught is history, and what we've been taught is truth, and unraveling and seeing things for as they are. I know you do a lot of work on divination and different types, which really interests me as somebody who has always been very drawn to tarot cards and rune stones and such like that. So I was wondering if you could just give us a look. I know it's a huge subject, a little bit of an overview of that.
Oh wow. The tarot cards, the crystals, all these are the symbology within them is very ancient, and it's part of that ancient memory that was lost. But for that memory, it needed to go into images because language has distorted, because history is not the truth. History is the hysteria. It's the mystery we have to go back into. And that mystery has to kind of be turned, that M has to be turned upside down into the womb. We have to go back into the womb again. So these tools are great, wonderful tools of divination to for us to reach godhood within ourselves, to align the inner masculine and the feminine within our own psyches and within our own consciousness individually, so that by correcting those two and their imbalance, then you are sane, then you are back to godhood, then you're not no longer the fallen one, as they call the fallen angels. We are the fallen angels once we are stuck in the forgetfulness of that memory, and these tools help bring back those memories energetically through the communication of these symbols. It's like the symbol of the fool, for example. The fool is the zero. Why is the fool the zero, not the one? Why was it chosen to be the zero? Why is the pose why is the fool dressed in these beautiful colorful clothes in this sort of carefree, sort of at the edge of the cliff, at the precipice, carefree without a worry? And the dog kind of, I always felt the dog there being like it came to come and greet it, rather than, that's my interpretation anyway. I feel like the dog came from the village somewhere to kind of welcome him, you know. And
Yeah,
it's almost like the fool is both masculine and feminine,
yeah,
if that makes sense, because he's got the flower growing out of one hand, and that symbolically is and it's, I think it's, I'm trying to remember which hand it was holding it in, but there is balance in the fool.
yeah,
And the fool is trying to communicate as well that it's the tool for the rest of the tarot cards, as
yeah.
in there needs to be this sort of surrendering to the intellect. The intellect needs to go out so that the communication can come in through the symbols, and that you can so the intuitive, because there's two things in divination when you go through the process. There's the observable knowledge, and then there is the intuitive knowledge. What we have been for such a long time been stuck in through history is the observable knowledge, and we've left out the intuitive feminine knowledge. And that has now, that helps, it kind of comes back, and through aligning both the observable with the intuitive, then you get the true knowledge, which is the knowledge of the tree of life, not the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because, and also that's not a bad thing either, because what it's trying to tell you is the tree of knowledge of good and evil comes from one, it branches out to good and evil, but what it needs to do is come back and say it's good, God evil,
Yeah.
because even in the word, it's hinted that the word God ends with a D, and the word devil begins with a D. The end is the beginning. The beginning is the end. Do you see? Like they both connected.
Absolutely.
So,
And one of my favourite cards, the Fool, as well.
oh really? Yeah. Me too. Fascinating
Yeah.
card. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
just one card, let alone the other cards.
absolutely. And
Um,
sorry, Stephen, were you gonna
Yeah, no, I just
go for it?
you're making absolutely amazing points there, Ahmed, about I've something that I've absolutely loved all my life was the study of history, and I think I've come to learn in my great awakening that history, as it's written in its form, can't be trusted. And something that I read not long ago, that history is not to be liked or disliked; it is there to teach. And unfortunately, you've got man. Look at the Second World War. As the victors, you have those that write the history on the victorious side, and then those that didn't win the war never wrote anything. So you always get the perspective or the perception on one-sided point of view, and that's why history can't really be trusted, really. And the other as well, the point that you're making about language, which is something that I really believe in my heart, that language is another illusion that is being used to sever our link to our consciousness. It's somewhere that's been distorted. There's hundreds of different languages, and really there's only one language, which is telepathy, that consciousness, the truth, that light language that we need to get back into. But there's something that I want to ask you there, and it's something that all our people that come on our podcast really sort of mention, and something that we are very passionate at the Purple Mountain is teaching about reincarnation. And I feel that if people begin to remember who they are, where they come from, this is just one of many lives. And if we can remember where we come from, we've lived across the world, we've been in Egypt, in Africa, in South America, we would remember things like, there might have been points in our past where we were shamans. And now that knowledge, that divine knowledge, needs to be remembered because it is needed to heal the earth now. It's needed now. So I want to ask you, Ahmed, sort of, since you've known your divine purpose, has that elevated your passion and your will to help other people? Is this your sort of divine mission to try to awaken other people? Because it's all about remembering, isn't it? Helping people to remember. Can you hear me there, Ahmed?
I think we might have a bit of a delay.
Yeah, I mean, even that word remember, if you study the word, means no. So it's no member. Yes. So the word means okay. I'll wait for that to catch up. So the means no, and by actually what we have to do is member ourselves back together again, because when you're a member, you're a whole. When you it's no member. So they trick us with the even language. They put spells within the language.
Wow.
So that when we say the words, it's like, oh, you need to remember. And I'm using the word remember, but once you understand the actual term of what that means, then you can take away that inversion and member it back again. So what we're doing is we're actually membering. We're membering as opposed to remembering. And that membering is it's part of for me through, I mean, my life happened the way it needed to happen. I had to go through immense suffering. I had to clean a lot and undo a lot of the ancestral trauma within my ancestry to get to where I am today. But I kept at it. There was some will pushing me towards that, and it was like a divine. There's something, I don't know if it's preordained or if it's not. It's a paradox in itself, but through this knowing how to do martial arts helped me clean out all the trauma in my body, because the body is a mind of itself, and we're always stuck in this mind, which is the little mind. The big mind is the body. The body is the biggest mind. So once we member these together, then it's one whole functioning thing. It's then all mind. And the Hermetic teaching is everything is mental. But there is a hidden meaning behind that. And that is, when we say everything is mental, it's mental through the body. And it's only through the body can you become the full mental, and the fundamental. So
Mm.
it's that membering, and through my diet being cleaned out, being vegan, and not eating chemicals, and my brother Jay, who you both know, with the alkaline, helped supercharge my nervous system. It replenished every cell and nerve in my body, to the point I quit all my addictions. I had, I had one addiction around a year ago, which you both know about. I got rid of that. That's all gone. It's all out of my. I don't need them. They serve their purpose to where I need to go, where I need to be today. So that part of that divination process has allowed me to remember that by by healing myself, I help heal humanity. I'm part of that spark, as everyone else. If we all did that job within ourselves, then we can walk out into the world and help heal others, for those who want it. You can't force yourself on their free will, because they have egos and blocks that they need to work through, and they have resistances to things like medicine, the plant medicines, for example, which are
Mm.
the the best technology you can use right now on planet Earth to heal yourself with, if you
Yeah.
know how to use them properly and with respect, and with love and care, and also not being afraid of the dark, not being afraid of the evil aspects of yourself and the things you've done in the past that are not good. Bringing that, forgiving yourself, just accepting your whole self as you are. And that will also lead, I believe, also not believe, but I know, in fact I know from experience, it will lead you to your, what people call your twin flame as
Mm.
well. But it takes a surrendering, and it takes a surrendering to the chaos as well, because we're always afraid of chaos. And we always want to find order, and this is me. I don't want to be a we and blended, and I don't want to lose myself, but actually you need to lose yourself to find yourself. It's a
Yeah.
paradox. So through that, yeah, through that loss of self, you find your real self, and not only that, the divine also finds itself through you, because the divine has been separated, the source has been separated into little fragments of consciousness. When it's forgotten, it's the whole. And it's been playing out this role of God and devil throughout. I don't know how long it's been playing this game, but it is a game, and it's fun, and it's boring at the same time, because it's been going on for so long. And it's a cycle, and it's a loop. It's the biggest loop ever that's ever existed in consciousness, and I have experienced this. And you have to go into the loop, surrender to the loop, keep going into the loop till it makes you lose yourself completely. This is what I found through my experience, and it helped. So yes, so that surrendering to the fear and not fearing it, just going through, going no, but the order wants to come in and go no, order. The chaos wants to go no, chaos. order, chaos, chaos, which one? And it just keeps on looping order and chaos over and over again. But it needs to play out. The order and chaos needs to play out over and over again till it learns it's one and the same thing.
Yeah.
And that it's actually not separate. It's one and the same. Order and chaos are together. The yin and yang can't be a yin and yang without the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
So it's accepting each other rather than trying to dominate each other. So yeah, through that, it's to go back to your answering that question about helping wake others up by having this understanding of true, because the mystery is my story and your story. Your mystery is your story. And the more you unlock your mystery, you unlock the true history within your DNA and your ancestry. Then the history doesn't matter, and the truth will find you. All the things that are true that will resonate, that knowledge will come back to you in this reality, and you will find the truth. If you seek it, you shall find.
Wow.
That's amazing,
and through
Amed.
that knowing,
Yeah.
you are able then to truly help others, and that those who want to be healed will come to you energetically anyway, because you're resonating in that frequency of I'm here to heal you. I'm ready. I'm owning it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, super powerful, and on so many levels, what you spoke of, about the word of change as well, what we're willing to change. And it's very easy. I said this to Stephen a few times this past month, to look at other people and say, well, they need to change that, and that. But it's very hard to look in the mirror and do the same to yourself and start looking in. And that's for me where the hard work and the
thank you.
begins. Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a delay, but I think with a bit of patience, it will.
Yeah, I think we should work well.
Yeah, what I found there very fascinating there, Chris, where Ahmed was talking about words and how there can be black magic and white magic in the words that we use, the language that we use. I'm definitely going to have a look and really think upon about some of the wording that we use and look at the words, Chris.
Yeah, we've even, I know we've done a lot of research the past few months on spiritual protection and everything that surrounds us, the words we use, the music we listen to, the way we speak to one another, the artwork we have up, the plants we have in our house, everything carries an energy. Yeah. So, are you back with us, Ahmed? Can you hear us okay?
I'm back. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
So,
seems to be a internet connection problem on my end, I think. So I apologize for that.
it's okay. We'll get back on track. But I think what we're just what I wanted to just point out there is that it can be the challenge, if you want to call it that we face is not to look at others or what they have to change, but to look within and to make the changes in our lives that we feel we need to make in such as diet, such as things we're not happy with, to look at resolving them. And in doing that, we become, I feel, a shining example for others, like you say.
Yep, absolutely, and that's the essential bit is that spiritual. By cleaning the body, you clean the spirit, and that's the, and it's all one. The cleaning the body and the mind, the body mind, and correcting those things in your life, and also letting go of things that don't serve you. It's that Namu Kali Kali Namu. If it doesn't serve you, burn it all away. There, you have to. Sometimes we're so attached to things, and we want to save that individual, or we want to save that relationship, and it's just beyond saving. But we just keep wanting to save and be the savior for them. But all we have to do is be the savior for ourselves. And if they want to be saved, they will know how. They will see you as the example. If you become attached, it leaches into you. Their DNA, their energy leaches into you, and it warps your healing. And it's so important to stay childlike and pure, and also recognize the evil as well, not being afraid to see the evil within people and within yourself, what that is capable, the devil, right, within. It's there. It's all in that duality of this god devil consciousness that's been going on, the duality, and it's told through our mythology, because the mythology is a form of psychology to
Mm.
give us the archetypes. The overall, the biggest archetypes is god and devil. There's nothing bigger than that. Then you have the other smaller archetypes, which are linked to the tarot and the constellations of the stars and astrology. So
Super,
yeah.
super interested in astrology at the moment. We're following that. But it's something that come to mind there, that I recently watched, was a man who, in a ceremony, he had a vision, quite a deep vision, that he was stood behind Hitler when he was making a speech in this ceremony. He was like, wow, it's like, why am I witnessing this? Why am I having this experience, this vision? And this voice said to him, you must remember that what you're seeing is separate. That is within all of us, that capability, if we go that way. And I thought that was very powerful, that vision, and something that would serve us all well to remember.
Absolutely. And we have to also also remind ourselves, or remember that we are that the people that helped Hitler come into power were just normal family men and women who served him, and the ones that were killing the innocents in the fields, killing those children and the women in those fields, were people just like you and me. They just abandoned their love for humanity out of fear. And it is that sort of the fair element is the artificial. It's the artificial. It's the because again, it's like the word evil in itself. I know it's an anagram for live in reverse, but actually, if you also look at it again, it's also an anagram for veil. Fear is a form of a veiling, and if you can't see past the veil and you see the veil as the truth, then the veil will deceive you into
Yeah.
doing things that are evil.
Mm. It's another illusion, and
And
if that's what we say, fear is an illusion. It's an artificial expression that we feed, that we give our own energy to that illusion that doesn't really exist. That's why we can say to this fear, go away. It doesn't exist, and it does go away.
yeah, 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 it's the mind killer. Fear is it's
Mm.
like Frank Herbert's in Frank Herbert's Dune. There's an affirmation that Paul Atreides, the main protagonist in the story, goes into this sort of labyrinth. Not labyrinth. He's tested by uh, a priest, a kind of dark priestess, and she goes, "Put your hand into the hole." And he was like, "Why should I?" She goes, "Put your hand into the hole if you want to live." And so he went in, and his mother reminded him of the affirmation, and he repeated his mother's. And it was funny that it was the mother as well.
Mm.
Um, and he said, "Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has passed, I will turn to see fear's path. Where it has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain." And it's the illusion, like you said. And affirmations are very powerful. If you can find powerful affirmations, we can dispel a lot of the fear, and also be in that presence of mind when it comes into our lives through people from our past, because sometimes people from the past come into your present, and it's very easy to go back to your previous state of consciousness with
Yeah.
those people. So it's staying firm into your in your love for yourself, in your love for the divine, the creation, and then staying firm, because the truth is always firm. Love is always firm. but it's gentle at the same time. It's this hard, soft thing again, and by staying in that center point, then nothing will phase you. No fear will ever touch you in your life.
Do you not feel as well, Ahmed, that what I feel, just going back to a little bit of the point that you made before about fear and the divine and understanding the divine purpose? Sort of, I've got this belief that, everything does happen for a reason. It does happen for a purpose. That when we look at countries, our ancestors, our ancestral DNA, a lot of all past 1,000 years, a lot of what humanity, we've all been part of it in many ways. That all needs cleaning, that needs realigning, that needs harmonizing, that needs going back into the light. And so in a way, when we look at things like Germany, may perhaps ancestrally Germany had to go through that, like we are going through things in the UK, through the colonization of many countries over the past 400-500 years. When we look at karma, and I mean, you get really deep into this conversation where things need looking at, things need healing, things need harmonizing. And there's people like us, perhaps not talking from an ego point of view, that have come down at this time to try to us remember who we are, and then trying to work on ourselves, help heal. Because I remember a ceremony, if you remember this, Chris, where I just felt, I'm part German, and I felt so strong that we were healing something really deep on the ley line ancestrally to do with Germany, and that was working through me. And it was so powerful and profound, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Have you sort of ever experienced that ancestrally, where you sort of done some plant medicine work, where you feel that you've been harmonizing and healing things, working through you from your past, through the people and your culture, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like um the thing is, with the ancestors, it's again where you're, because when we reincarnate, we reincarnate into bodies that we weren't in before we reincarnated. We were probably part of I think we've all been black, white, every color and race. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
But obviously, because we've come here, we energetically assigned through the healing of ourselves to then work with the healing of the ancestral lines of the planet, of humanity. So for me, yes, I felt very strongly with the Native American tribes, even though my genealogy, so to speak, in terms of observable knowledge, it comes from the Middle East, from Iraq. Um, Somehow I have some sort of lineage back to the Native Americans and the shamans, of the Americas, of that region.
Yeah.
But I've also felt at one point I was also a part of uh, the uh, the Irish as well. I felt a very strong Irish connection, a very strong Celtic. There's a
Yeah.
reason why I
Yeah.
ended up here on this land.
Yes.
This is, I don't know how I ended up here, but I ended up here of no choice of my own. It was actually not it was chosen for me rather than my free will choosing it. I was too young to choose to come here, but my father, through circumstances of war in the Middle East and so on, I ended up in Norway for a few years, in Scandinavia. I also feel like I have a connection there too. But we are interconnected to these ancestral lines. And I think the more you work with the medicine, it will unlock other places you can work with energetically through the ley lines. Because again, we are Earth. Earth is us. The Earth is our heart. It's an anagram for Earth. So
Yeah.
by working through our hearts, we're able to connect through the ley lines of the Earth, so we can heal her. And we do it from a micro to a macro to even more of a macro. It's
Yeah.
kind of like inward to outwards. Inside out, inside out.
Yeah, I think just to pick up on one of the points there, obviously it's very important what Stephen said, but also ancestrally, what we can do when we go back to that is it can empower us as well. When we delve into that ancestry, not only do that deep healing for ourselves and collectively, but I feel it takes us out of what I would call the I, which is this isn't just the one experience you're having and that's it. You
Yep.
have been before, you are now, you will be again, and you open up to who you truly are, and that empowerment will disperse fear, I feel.
Yes, absolutely. And you realize that there is no death. There's no fear of death. That death is just another door to whatever you want to go next. you know, and once you realize that, there is nothing to fear. One day I know this body will decay and it will die and it will return to the earth. And I hope that this flesh will feed the earth just like it's fed me. So I return energetically what is given to me through this beautiful experience of a life I've had, you know. Um, and yes, absolutely. It's sort of a, uh, a sort of synergy and that knowingness of the ancestry of your ancestors that unlocks in your DNA here and now in your body. That memory is locked. That's why they keep saying to us like 90% of your DNA is junk. Yeah, that's junk. That information you told us is junk.
Yeah.
Because actually, what we're here to do is unlock that 90%. Because we've been operating on 10%, which is the I, which is what you're talking about, Chris.
Yeah.
That's the I. What about the we, the we of our ancestry and the interconnectivity of it all, of that?
Yeah, and absolutely. And the beauty of that is, as soon as that realization and that can be accepted, and also what Stephen said about reincarnation earlier, if that can really be accepted collectively, then that rids the world in one swoop of any problems with race, sexuality, what country you live in, anything, because there's a very good chance that we've either been there before or we will be there in our next life. One of
Yep.
many experiences. So, when they say, you are me, I am you, and that's true to a certain degree.
Yes, and also the most important one, which is the overriding, another overriding theme in this present time, is the fear of death through disease.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that another lie we have been told, and it's been perpetrated by part of those who've been playing the devil game, like the Rockefellers and so on, who
Yeah.
actually brought in the idea of germ theory. So we've been, sadly, through culture and the collective has been made and fooled to, again, veiled, should I say, as well, as it could probably be the word, is to us, for us to believe that I'm going to pass a virus to you, and there is no and that's just a theory, by the way, and they still call it a germ theory, and it was perpetrated by the Rockefeller Foundation back in the early 1920s,
Yeah.
or yeah, that sort of day, that sort of era, and that propagated the pharmaceutical industry as a result. Had that have not happened, we won't have the pharmaceutical industry, which is actually what's been destroying the nervous systems of humanity and creating a very toxic state and environment within the body. So it's natural for our body to go through what's called terrain theory. I know they call it theory, but it's actually, we are going through, when we go through, that's why when you have a cold in the winter. It's a reason why you have a cold in the winter, because we're also shedding mucus. Mucus is the poison, because we've been again, it ties into what Jay is talking about with alkalinity. They're feeding us a lot of acid, so the body keeps producing mucus. And every winter, when the winter comes and the sun is not feeding us enough of the heat, we start to shed the mucus, just like the trees start to shed their leaves.
Yeah.
Um, and it's part of that cycle. So, but once you clean your body enough, you will be disease free. You don't need, that's all to do with the power of your with the power of knowing that you can command the energy. The energy is always there in your body through the chakras. You have the root chakra at the bottom, you have the crown chakra at the top. It's like a battery. It's a negative and a positive, or positive and negative, whichever way round it is. But if that's not circulating and flowing, your body will keep having disease. If you're not clearing those chakras, you're not meditating, you're not looking after your body and respecting it, because that's the temple, that's the church, you know, that's the real temple. They tell you to
Yeah.
go to a temple and a church to worship, but if you want to worship the divine, there it is, it's right here. Worship the divine through your inner,
Spot
because the
on.
divine is inside you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to mention now, Ahmed, as well, just going back a point there about which is something that I think people are sort of really waking up to, you know, when we talk about the power of language and how I call it black magic, say it how it is, how it spells, isn't it? Black magic spells. And I think a lot of us are really waking up from the language that's being used, and things like what we talk about, viruses and bacteria, and then this fear of death, and this fear of other things that have been programmed into a lot of us since being born. And I sort of feel that sort of the powers to be, they have a lot of knowledge on things like this. And I feel that, do you feel that sort of they've created templates, sort of black magic templates, that as a lot of humanity is coming back, they're trying to keep us on this low vibration, this low vibrational template? And there's some of us that, as we are healing and cleaning ourselves, we're healing those black magic templates, that they end up being washed away by light language, by love, by light. And then that we can, being the engineers, I call us engineers sometimes, as we engineer and reactivate those templates, so that possibly maybe more enlightened beings like our children can reincarnate in, so that the vibrations can be lifted. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is that you can yeah, 100%, you can the templates are there to be dismantled. They want to do a great reset, but actually we're here to come and do the great reset, right? They want to do they're telling us, but in fact it's such an inversion, because they bring in the great reset of fear and we're bringing the great reset of love.
Yeah.
And that's
Love
the
that.
that's what they fear, because they're the fear and we're the love, and they fear the love. But it's funny that you can't get to love only through the fear. So it's a paradox again. It's this paradox of God and devil again, and
We're
good and evil
mirroring,
and all
aren't we?
that.
We must be mirroring one each other. So
Yep.
in a way, they are healing us and we healing them, and without us knowing, we're all coming together, which is
Yep.
powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, they have to play out their role to divide and fall so far away back into the little me, into the little I, rather than coming back to the true I, the one I, the singular I. Even I think it says it in the Bible as well. Let thine eye be single, and you know, the divine is present. Again, there's a bit of warping in the language of the Bible, but you get the gist of it. Let thine eye be single is this eye. We're always using two. We're always in the two, the duality. It needs to be single. These eyes need to be single. So
Yeah.
it's coming back and seeing through your third eye, and that sort of enlightenment. Also, there is a responsibility here too, especially for those who are procreating and creating children here on this planet at this time. The males have to make sure that their partners, because the womb man, the woman is bringing the child, whether it's a man or whether it's a male or a female, into this realm.
Yeah.
And there is a responsibility for also the woman and the man to make sure they're both aligned before they bring those children into the world, because then they'll also be reincarnating into that karma if they are not because they say the first and this goes back to, if I may go into a bit of psychology here.
Yeah, of
So
course.
Freud had this theory of about the mother and the father and the sexuality connected to the mom and the father and all this sort of stuff. But Otto Rank came in and said, hold on a minute. That's after the child is born. What about before the child is even born, when it's conceptualized in the mother's womb? If everything is energy, then the sperm, when it goes into the womb, that's two energies, the yin yang again, the seed of life going into the womb to create life itself. What is that energy from the father going into the mother's womb doing then? What's happening there energetic? Where's the mother psychologically? And this is why the feminists have been fighting the patriarchy, and there's been sort of this funny sort of fight between this the women blaming the patriarchy and the men going, hold on, we didn't do anything. It was the controllers.
Yeah,
it's not us. It's not us men. It's not. So there's been this dance going around, and what's happening is that the women have been playing the male role and the men have been playing the female role, but they're waiting for the dance to go back to its original form, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so the man could be the man and lead, and the woman could be the woman and create and lead in that way. They're both leaders, but it's just there's different ways of leading.
Yes.
So yeah, that synergy and that balance again. If the man is not the male, or it doesn't matter, male, female, whatever, sexually, wherever you are, what matters is that the feminine and the masculine must be aligned. There's only a duality. That's truth. That's fact. It exists. There's no other third thing. It's that duality. If that's not in balance, those children will come out misaligned, and then they have to try and figure out your mess.
Yeah.
And
so do you think, just want to interrupt you, do you think then, as as parents, you talk about them being creators, they are creating, let's have a look at things for a minute energetically, they're creating a template, and if there's any kind of distortion there between parents, then that soul, obviously knowing that they're going to come back to that template and that they're going to reincarnate using that. Yes, they're still an individual, but there is some kind of imprint. There must be some kind of imprint because they're using the mother's and father's energy, aren't they?
Yes.
You think?
Yeah, and there is a there is a sort of responsibility in that.
Yeah.
Because if you are not conscious, a lot of people are just having kids without even thinking, just for the sake of having kids, so they can play out their roles of the mortgage and the family home and the children, and because that's what you're told to do. That's what we're here. But there's actually no sort of step back a minute and go, hold on, what's going on? And why are the divorce rates so high? Why are there are so many fatherless homes? So many, and the mother has to be both the mother and the father, and then the daughters come out psychologically damaged, the sons come out psychologically damaged, and then the mother then blames the patriarchy when actually the mother was the one that brought the child as well. She had a responsibility as well as the father. They're both responsible. They have to share the burden of that. One can't keep blaming the other, because we'll be in this endless loop and dance that is never going to end, and it's insane to keep doing it. It's like that saying, I think it was Einstein whoever said it, was like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and nothing ever changing. It's in those sort of words.
It's that loop, isn't it? That loop that humanity have trapped themselves in, and it's your karmic loop, whatever you want to call it. And you can see it, as you're rising, as you observe more about society and culture, you do see how people have entrapped themselves, and all they have to do is surrender, forgive, let go, and they can let that go. But a lot of them don't. They just keep going back in that same cycle. But I just want to mention just one more question to you there. Now I'm going to pass on to Chris. It's been very interesting tonight. It's a little bit about something that I feel is a big issue at the moment, is the distortion of sexuality in in humanity. And I feel, where do you think that sort of comes from? You know, when you find that sexual abuse on children, the sexual side, where, because in my understanding, when we look at the sacral chakra, which is for me the sort of the divine feminine side and its development, you know, I feel that certain chakras sort of are in development at certain stages of your life. So where do you feel the distortion of sexuality is then in humanity, and why there is so much of it in that distortion?
Well, there's several reasons for that distortion. The first distortion, that's I don't know how long ago it started, but there was a sort of perversion of sexuality, because when you're stuck down in the lower chakra, because you have to remember the chakras, for me anyway, this is my interpretation through what the divine has been communicating to me through the medicine, is that each chakra is a state of consciousness in you. If you've only stuck, if you haven't unlocked the other chakras and you're stuck, because we all start, and somehow it's this black magic template, we've been stuck in this lower chakra for a long time.
Yeah,
And it's not that it's bad, evil, or good. It's not about that. It's how it's used as a tool. Again, is, you know, a knife, you can cut and make food with it, or you can use it to kill someone.
yeah,
And it's the same thing with the lower chakra. Again, if you don't know you're in that state of consciousness of the temptation of the flesh, and this is what we mean by the temptation of the flesh, the carnal desire, the uncontrollable urge for filling the void of what's missing from all the other chakras, because it wants all the other chakras. It needs to be filled, but
wow,
it wants to be filled by finding holes to pervert itself and cause harm. And by feeling that harm, it feels alive, because it's the only way knows how to feel alive,
yeah,
because it doesn't know how to feel alive, because the consciousness of that human being is stuck in the lower carnal hell. Basically, that's why the color red is associated with hell and the devil. That's why the color of the chakra, the root chakra, is red. You know, it tells us through these colors and symbol, you know, symbolically speaking. That's where I feel the distortion is. If you do not unlock these chakras, you will be stuck in hell. And these people that are perpetrating this abuse and the inversion of sexuality and the perversion of it is through the fact they're stuck in the carnal. And this is another thing that I have also come across through some of the lost history, the lost mystery, sorry, the lost
yeah,
mysteries, which they hide from us, by the way. So, um, uh, and Santos Benacci talks about this too. I don't know if you're aware of his work, but it's older than that. The knowledge is older than that. It comes
yeah,
from ancient teachings, and it's about seminal retention. If you notice, they have flooded our consciousness through the internet, and even before then with magazines, but now more than ever with pornography. It's rampant everywhere. And that, what it wants to do is it wants men to keep ejaculating. And you see, when you ejaculate, it's a great feeling, but it's a very short felt feeling. It's not an
mm,
elongated feeling. There is actually a way where you can practice white tantra, which is
yeah,
bringing the you can reverse the orgasm up
yeah,
your spine. There's a way to reverse it. So there is a way to enjoy sex without having to waste your energy, the seed, because that's the seed of life. It should be a sacred thing to procreate with. It shouldn't be there just to spill. And you don't feel great you feel great during the act of sex, but and the part where you orgasm. But when that's over, it's like you're done and you're tired and you feel zapped the next day. That's why they say, oh, you feel legless. You know, it's like because you've drained all that beautiful, beautiful divine energy that you've been building up. That's the also that spinning of the seed is also part of eating from the knowledge of good and evil. It's a part of biting that apple. and falling into temptation. Falling into temptation. They hint it to us through these mythologies. I look at the Bible and those holy scriptures as mythologies, not as a religion to follow. I look at them as allegories and stories to help us remember how to act in accordance, but people have distorted the interpretation, and there lies the problem with religion. And again, even look at the word religion. Re means no, and legion means whole. So no whole, no wholeness. Legion is a whole thing. That's why you call it a legion. It's a unit together of a collective. So anyway, going back to that, even women can do this, by the way. This is not exclusive to the male. There's a way also for the women to, and the knowledge is out there. Maybe in a later podcast we can talk about this further. There are nuggets of knowledge and books out there that will show you, like Dr. George W. Carey talks about this, and I can't remember the other name, but it will come back to me. Ines Perez, how you can retain the divine energy of sexuality within you, because that is creative energy. When you spill it, you waste. If you waste it, you waste yourself.
Yeah.
And this applies to women too, as well. There is a way for them to also keep their divine fluids in and reverse it too. But again, it's we have to learn this new way of having sex. That's the white tantra that's been taught. And yeah, again, like I would like to go and be a bit more prepared for this talk, because it's a bit it's still pretty new to me, and I'm still integrating that knowledge. But I assure you that knowledge is there. It hasn't been lost.
Yeah, I know that some of the Egyptian, I just read just after Christmas the Flower of Life book, and he talks about the Egyptians had that knowledge on the sacredness of sex, and how the Queen T and Akhenaten and Nefertiti could live for hundreds or even thousands of years by the power of oneness with your soul flame, your soul partner, and in the sexual part, how that oneness, that one energy could ignite, not lose energy, but combine the energy for longevity. It's amazing stuff, and yeah, it's fascinating. So thank you for sharing that, Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's true. These are true. This story is true, and it's not only, because a twin flame could be a male and a male, but also if their sexualities are not compatible, because sometimes males are heterosexual, right? If they're not, that's okay. They can actually have energetic without even taking any clothes off. They can be sitting across from each other and energetically having that experience. It's so amazing. And I know for a fact that this does exist, and through that synergy of the twin flame that you just talked about, because this is it ties in with the seminal retention, or the sexual fluid retention, because when it ties back to astrology too. So when your sun is in the moon sign every month, and you fast and you stay pure in your thoughts from any sort of lower desires, if you fast during that period and meditate it's 2.5 days. So when your sun is in the moon sign every month, you fast for 2.5 days. That is your opportunity to raise your chrism. So, because the ancient Egyptians talked about this too. It's the Hermetic teachings. That energy renews the oils. It's the sacred oils. It's the sacred secretion, as they call it, the sacred secret. It starts at it comes down every month from your pineal gland, the claustrum and the pituitary gland. It's formed the land of milk and honey. One produces a golden fluid, and the other gland produces a milky fluid. That's why we get the land of milk and honey. Those fluids go down the spine into the lower root chakra. It stays there for 2.5 days. And then if you fasted and stayed pure, that chrism is raised. through the meditation, and you're able to renew the oils, and that's how you're able to preserve your life and your body for longer. You can live for much longer, and also you can find the eternal consciousness as well through that, because that is where the pineal gland, when it gets purified, you're able to unlock powers. And I'm going to share this. Because I feel it's important, because it's all tying in with what the events of yesterday happened for me. Yesterday, I was able to experience telepathy. And I know it exists because I experienced it. Whether people want to believe that or not is not my problem. How I achieved that, that's a secret that only you can discover. Because if I describe it to you, you won't get it. You have to experience it. So, yeah, these abilities are real. We have the abilities to unlock these telepathy, teleportation. All these abilities are there. It's just, and you're able to do that. The medicine will teach you how to do that if you surrender to it. But again, you have to go through all that work, that shadow work, all that sort of stuff. You have to clear your vessel, clear the mind completely, get the ego tamed completely, and surrender to the divine energies that are there, because it's truly magical. This world is magical if you wanted it to be. Your consciousness is what it manifests.
So
So
true. So true. If you believe it to be, it will be. But I really appreciate what you've shared there, Ahmed, because there's a couple of subjects that you touched on there that some might see as sort of taboo subjects, or perhaps people are too shy to talk about and share. And I think that they're very, very relevant. And I think sharing them more is vitally important. And I think it will help a lot of people simply by sharing this knowledge and experience. But something I wanted to touch on, just changing the subject a bit, is rediscovering our connection with nature. And recently, I don't think it was that recent actually, one of your podcasts, and you talked about sleeping outside in a forest, and it was cold, and but you overcame it, and reconnecting and being out in the cold. And I know a lot of people at the moment are doing a lot of the Wim Hof work as well, the cold showers and such like
yeah.
that, coming out of our comfort zone. So, um, just if you could just give your thoughts on the importance of reconnecting with nature right now as well.
Hmm. Absolutely vital. It's a must. If you can't connect, because that is also the real. Okay, we talked about the temple in the micro being the body. The other body is the earth, and the earth is a womb. We're inside actually a womb. We're inside a womb. The night sky is a womb. We're inside this cosmic egg, which we call the cosmos. And in that egg is the womb. We're inside the womb. We're all inside this womb called Earth. And if we don't embrace Earth and connect with nature, we are disconnecting ourselves from it and not allowing the energy of the womb, and it defeat again the divine feminine energies to come through. Um, so again, in nature, you have that's what's so beautiful about nature. When you're in nature, you when you need to when I have to clear my mind, if I go to nature, it clears it for me,
Yeah,
because
same.
it's like I can't conceptualize things. The man-made things, it will tie me into thought forms. But if I want to just get away from thoughts and things that are just like pulling me down, I go to nature. And that beauty of chaos and order that nature creates is so beautiful. And especially earthing in the ground, touching the earth, sleeping on the earth, because we're so accustomed to sleeping on our furniture and bed. We're in boxes, finding our comfort. And sometimes we need the discomfort, because we have become too comfortable being in the artificial and not with nature, not embracing nature, not getting your hands muddy, not eating with your hands as well,
Yeah.
disconnecting from our foods, just by, oh, we have to be civilized. It's like, really? Come on. Is that even civilized? You don't want to get your hands dirty. Well, sometimes you do. If you want to connect with your food energetically, well, you can. I guess you can like put the energy through the fork, but why not go direct? Sometimes I'm not saying that with everything. Sometimes you need a spoon for soups and things like that. But certain foods, why not eat with your hands? Why not touch the earth? And just sleep. Go and find a tent or whatever. Just lay down and feel the earth. Just silence your mind. Get out of being the ego and just feel and be. That's all. Once you do that, you reset yourself as well. There's a form of reset that happens. So, because when we're in a city or among civilization, we kind of like get disconnected again. We go into the forgetfulness and the disconnection of the divine, of the source, of the magic of life and of creation. And nature brings you right back and members you as well. Because you remember it, it members you too. And it's beautiful. And only through that you're able to connect also to the wisdom of the body through the planet, through nature. Nature is your connection to your own body as well, to member your body and connect energetically with this part and get out of this little mind and get into the real mind.
Absolutely.
Do you feel then, Ahmed, talking about that, that I always got the impression that when we look at city life, you walk. I'm not saying this out of judgment. People that choose to live in city life, that it is very, very heavily distorted. City is a very heavily distorted place. So vibrationally, as a whole, is very, very heavy. Do you feel, as people are awakening, people will be drawn away from city life and will be drawn more into nature, or perhaps disconnecting from the concrete jungle to creating more green places and really helping us to reconnect back to nature?
Yes, I feel for those who are ready and part of this divine consciousness that we are tapping into, those are going to be drawn. I was brought into a city, no choice of my own. My circumstances, my finances, everything that had to happen to where I am. But I also realized I have to get out of the city and go into nature more and be a part of a community. It's going back to that. But we also have to keep connected because we're all interconnected as humanity. But this mass collectivization of concrete jungle and too many people intermingled in one place is insane. It's trapped in these little boxes paying extortionate rents and so on, just to be there for the sake of convenience, because you want it to be comfortable, when actually the irony is you're uncomfortable because you're running around like a headless chicken trying to earn money to stay in your prison that you've created for yourself. You want to be free? Get out into nature.
We're all mental.
Why are
we?
you
Mental.
here? Yeah, it's insanity.
Yeah, I think that's so many good points made, and I would say to anyone listening, if you're finding you're feeling overwhelmed, confused, or too much in the mind, take yourself to nature. If you've got somewhere nearby you can walk to or travel to that you can just have some peace, or go with friends, people you care about, and it will help. Absolutely will help. And the only thing that slightly concerns me tonight, Ahmed, is that you might have encouraged some of Stephen's eating habits a little bit.
Oh, really?
Eating with my hands.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to send telepathy to Chris and say, we went to a lovely vegan place last week, and we went with a group of friends, and particularly in the Indian or Hindu culture, they use the hands. And my partner, he was using his hands, and it just seemed alien, doesn't it? You sat there with knife and fork, and you do feel the energy, you feel what you're eating, and it is, you're seeing a completely different perspective. It's amazing, deprogramming us.
And the food tastes better with your hands, right? Do you
Yeah.
feel that? It tastes
Yeah.
actually better when you're eating with your hands. I again, like, even though I'm encouraging it, but obviously, you know, it's like where it's customary to do so. But again, it's just the funny thing about culture. Again, it's a cult. It's not nature. It's not natural. It's a cult. And the culture is the artificial. You know, we create culture collectively. And if society collectively is insane, then some things and practices within our culture and even the arts are insane too.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, art imitates life. And what I say is no, the life is the art. There is no imitation. You have to be authentic, you know, and you got to not stop caring about what other people think. You just do what feels natural. What's your body telling you? What is your authentic self telling you? You want to eat with your hands? Go and eat with your hands. Who cares who's watching? You know, let them think you're crazy. Maybe they already, well, who's to say they're not the ones that are crazy? You know, you're here constantly judging each other and whatever. Eat, you know. So yeah.
I'll be eating it with my hands every day now, Chris. So
you'll
no
be
judging.
getting the soup. You'll be getting the soup and scooping it with your hand and go.
He doesn't need much encouragement, really. Well, Ahmed, we really enjoyed this talk, and I feel, and I know we've touched on a lot of different subjects, which I really appreciate you sharing, and we've dipped our toe in. So I feel I'd love to do this several more times when convenient for yourself, and we can deep dive because I know there's a lot more. But I'm hoping that our listeners have been able to resonate with some of the words, if not all of the words this evening, and it's helped you along your journey, whoever's listening. Please check out Ahmed's channel, Planetary Intelligence. Worthwhile. They will post a link wherever you're listening to this or watching us. I will post a link before. And please click and subscribe to ourselves here at Collective Awakening or the Purple Mountain on YouTube, or if you're listening to us to Spotify. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for giving us your time this evening.
My pleasure.
It's been an honour.
My honour. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And what I always appreciate out of these talks, I know we're doing it for everyone out there, but actually you learn so much and they're very nourishing as well. So thank you very much, Stephen, as well.
Thank you. It's been absolutely fabulous tonight, Ahmed. You, like Chris said, you know, you're learning, you're growing, you're membering. I'm going to use a different word, membering. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It is nourishing. It ignites things within you, and we must also physically connect again soon. Is the spring and the summer, and we can do maybe some collective work in nature and do some different work, plant medicine. It is amazing times ahead. That's why I want to say it to you.
You'll be visiting London this year as well, won't you, Stephen?
I'm going to London about 4 times in March and May with my partner, and with not spiritual matter, physical matter.
Okay.
You'll have to seek him out, Ahmed. Check him out.
Yeah, well, let me know when I'm here.
Brilliant.
Okay, well, lots of love. Thank you so much once again. Thanks everybody for listening. And yeah, all our love till we speak to you again.
Speak soon.